Hello and welcome to my video about trends or velocities and Trimble 4D control. At first, I want to show you why to monitor trends or velocities. I want to explain the concept of trend lines. I'll show you the database configuration and how to configure trends in T4D Web. If you are not familiar with the topic velocities, I'm sure you're wondering why to monitor velocities. In some installations, like for example landslides, movement is normal and expected. In this example, you can see that in 2 months, the sensor moved down from 7 centimeter to 10 centimeter. So it moved 3 centimeters in 2 months or 1.5 centimeters per month. So the velocity is 1.5 centimeter per month or 4.8 millimeters per day. In some installations, like for example in landslides, a steady movement is often okay, but an increase in velocity is critical. With monitoring displacements, it's not possible to set alarms. With monitoring velocities, it's possible to set alarms when the velocity of a sensor is increasing. Trimble 4D control always uses a linear regression or a linear trend over a specified time span to calculate the velocity of a sensor. The computation takes all measurements into account which were made in the selected time span. Trend lines can be visualized in the integrity monitor of the T4D server by selecting Show Trend Lines, and then the trend line is plotted in the displacement chart. The movement is displayed also here in the legend. Also in T4D Web, trend lines can be displayed in the analysis. Therefore, you have to go to regression and select the time series, for example here the northing component. Then you can select what kind of regression type you want, and then the regression line is drawn here and also displayed here in the title. Trimble 4D control is not only displaying trend lines in the charts, there's also a velocity calculation done in the background when transferring position sensors from T4D server to T4D Web. The configuration is done in the table TMS trends and the visualization and alarming in T4D Web. The configuration of the trend calculation is done in the table TMS trends in the database. The most common used trend is the trend with the ID 4. It's the trend of the last 24 hours with a minimum time span of 18 hours and a minimum number of epochs of 8. If you want to change something in this table, contact support for assistance. Now I want to show you how to display the trend results and the analysis of T4D Web. Here I have one terrestrial sensor, T1, which moved quite a lot over 1 week. It moved over 2 meters in the easting component. The regression line shows 0.268 meters per day. Now I go to Edit to add the trends. Here I'll select Add. Select the data type, single sensor is fine. And now I don't select observation series, but velocity series. Next. T4D calculates different sliding window sizes, and I can define here which sliding window size I want to use. I'll want to use now the window of 1 day. The next selection is the velocity presentations. Some customers are not interested in the velocity per day. They want to know how many days per millimeter. This is inverted velocity, but I want to show you the normal velocity now. So next, and in this page I have to select the value, which is easting, like the terrestrial sensor. Here I can select the epoch. I'll want to plot every epoch. Here I could define the layout, but I leave the default. Now I can view the results. Here we can see the easting displacements in green and the easting velocity in gray. As it was a steady movement, the velocity is stable at 0.28 meter per day. The velocity line starts later, as in the TMS trends table it was configured that the one-day trends need a minimum time span of 80 hours to calculate velocities. To alarm for changes in the velocity, you have to create an alarm and define velocities in the alarm conditions. So here I have an alarm with my sensor T1, and in the condition type I don't use observation, but I'll select the velocities. In the value column, I'll use delta easting again, and here I'll select again a one-day calculation window. Also, here I'll use again velocities. Now I can choose the normal things like alarm evaluation mode, and here I'll define my threshold. In my example, the sensor was moving 0.28 meter per day, so I set the attention threshold to 30 centimeter, warning to 40, and alarm to 50 centimeter per day. Now we can see that everything is green, and in the information we can see that the latest value is below the threshold. At the end, I want to explain the trend options you can see here for 2D and 3D trends. The 2D or 3D trend is the trend of the 2D or 3D displacements. This was added in T4D version 5. The delta 2D or delta 3D absolute velocity is based on a Pythagoras formula of the northing and easting trend values for delta 2D and the northing, easting, and height values for delta 3D. Thank you for watching this video, and check out the other videos in our channel.